Need to pop that back out. Welcome everyone to Spirit Talk Australia Radio, and today we are joined by our very special guest, Laura Tempest. Now I've got to get it right, Zakroff. Mm-hmm. I keep going with Zakroff. I think I've watched too much Flash Gordon. Laura is a professional artist, author, dancer, designer, muse, myth punk teacher and witch. She actually holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Rhode Island School of Design. Renata's an artist too, so she's going to really like this. And her artwork has received awards and honours worldwide. Laura has been a practising modern traditional witch for over 2 decades. She doesn't look old enough.
She only looks 21.
She started when she was 2. So she loves all the various paths of witchcraft. She has blogs, a modern traditional witch, and also contributes to many magazines. Has written 2 books, Witch's Companions and Sigil Witchery, and we are going to get to talk to her today to find out all about it. So everyone, please welcome Laura. Woo! I got my timing right. Woohoo!
Welcome, Laura.
I'm going to get headphones.
Blessed be, and welcome to you. And thank you so much for giving up your Sunday evening to have a chat to us here in Australia. And I will just mention our beautiful patroness here, Lady Tamara von Forslund, the Witch of Oz, who instigated all of this to begin with and asked us to take on this role to talk to people who many Australians may not be familiar with. They may be familiar with your books or have seen you on other podcasts, but haven't actually had that much to do with you. And so we are really here to get the Australian people here to know who you are and to love you as much as we love you, because your artwork is awesome. I absolutely love it. Just take over while I take this off.
So, yes, well, is this your first time talking to or doing anything with Australia?
It's a good question. I've done so many different podcasts and interviews. I think there was one in New Zealand, but I'm not entirely sure if there's been one in Australia yet. So this might be the first.
New Zealanders are our cousins.
Yeah, close enough,
Well,
yeah.
Sometimes. It depends. We tend to steal anyone from New Zealand that's famous.
We'd steal Jacinda in a heartbeat. We want Jacinda over here.
Yes, please. She's the Prime Minister over there, and she has done such a fabulous job with the country. But we digress. We're talking about you. So tell us when you started on this path. What led you through this whole area of life that you now inhabit?
So I was born.
Yay! End of story.
Yes, it's always.
I'm liking her already.
The constant search to have that nice, neat, and tidy witch origin story. I'm like, is it one moment in time where somebody just hits you with a broomstick and you're like, that's it, you're a witch. You're like, oh, great. It's more of
the 12-year-olds who are declaring now that they're witches.
Well, we're living in different times, right?
We are.
When I was 12, and actually it was earlier than that, I was constantly checking out the Mysteries of the Unknown series from Time Life, which had the one on witchcraft and outer body experiences and other such things. That's constant, and I was so into ancient Egypt and Babylon, and it was a little bit weird.
Really?
Weird are our people.
But I would say probably around 14 is when I read The Mists of Avalon.
That was the starter for so many, The Mists of Avalon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't say I recommend it today. So much has transgressed since then. But at the time, it was actually one of my brother's girlfriends who was like, I think you would like this. And I was like, oh, there used to be other beliefs. And but a few years later is when I found Drawing Down the Moon by Margot Adler. And I was like, wait, there are people who believe this now? Like, it's not just pick one of the big three, you know, or anything else beyond that. And so that's when I was like, that's it. Why am I dealing with this?
So did you come from a mainstream religious family at all, or were they all atheists?
So my mother is best described as an Italian Sicilian Roman Catholic.
Ah, one of them.
Wow.
Yes. And my father is a kind of lax reform Russian Jew.
Wow.
So it's sort of the classic Atlantic, mid-Atlantic combination from, you know, DC up into Massachusetts or so. But my parents are very much into, you know, into arts, into history. My mom taught at Catholic school, and she ended up doing more religious studies for older children, like into high school. After I moved out into college, I was like, wait, this stuff about Buddhism and Hinduism. Like, she just kind of, it's like, Wicca, this stuff's cool. I'm like, thanks.
Told you so.
Like, I could have ended up as a little heretic and blasphemer. You know, they used to call me the little pagan or the little heathen, you know, without any sort of the larger cultural context that we have in neo-paganism, right? So they always know, they're like, well, this one, you know, it'll be amazing if she makes it to confirmation and doesn't, like, get set on fire in church. So I did have a fever for my confirmation, so it was close.
Oh, I was a good little Catholic girl all the way through school. I had to walk into church every morning and say my prayers before I went to school.
I was a Catholic girl. I don't think I was necessarily good.
I asked God for a lot of things, and let me just say, he gave me nothing. But anyway, that's another story.
Those days are behind you, Renata.
They are, but they've left a scar. That's all I want to say. They've left a scar. Let's move on. So you, where did you sort of land from there? What was the first sort of element that you went into and decided to explore?
So, being at that precipice between high school into college, and at that time I was living in South Carolina, so it's like the very classic southern part of the United States. So pretty much everything you've heard is true.
Wow.
And moving back up to,
we're not going.
it's beautiful. It has a lot of character.
Right. No t-shirts. Don't wear any t-shirts.
And up into New England, which is, you know, the heart of so much here. I mean, so we have Salem, Massachusetts, which not only the history, but in the modern context, even back then in the early 90s, it was a burgeoning city of modern witches. And so I had kind of did my research to connect with local groups before I even went up to school up there. But I kind of found that I wasn't so much into Wicca and a lot of the groups that were already there. I was sort of like, well, I like this and I like that. And, you know, gone through Drawing Down the Moon. I read a lot of Doreen Valiente. And I just liked that more folkloric context. I really didn't like ceremonial magic. You know, and the structure of that and a lot of the patriarchal features of that. And so I ended up forming my own group, a college age group at the time. And just it became a very eclectic thing. And as we moved along, I started forming a more established tradition as well, which is sort of that's been known as the modern tradition here in the United States.
Wow.
I remember reading that you said you were part of the modern traditional witchcraft. Now I'm a seeker, so I've only been doing this for like 2 to 3 years. Could you explain to our audience what that actually is?
Yes. So it can be a little bit different in the UK, and how it's come in the last couple of years, particularly last decade. But for us here, particularly, it is that taking your own background, understanding where you're coming from, because in the United States, we're such a melting pot. You can't just say, oh, well, I have 30%, you know, Slavic and 20% Russian, and, you know, I'm ex-Italian, and I'll, you know, how am I supposed to do this, right? This idea that you have to just jump into any one tradition. It doesn't encompass who you are. So taking those elements from the different folklore and the traditions and studying up on all of these different branches, and then taking into context that you are a modern practitioner, a modern magical practitioner in a place that isn't Italy or Russia or Latvia or all those places. You're here in, the United States or wherever you might be residing. And so it's striking a balance between those traditions of the past and modern practical living.
Wow, that's excellent. What do you think are the most important aspects of teaching witchcraft to the younger ones that are coming up and are really interested in it now? What seems to be the thing that you think is kind of the most important thing that they're either getting or not getting?
I feel like this comes up every generation, right? It's always
That's a hard question.
What is it now? One of the things that I'm seeing, because I'm sort of in the bridge generation between the old guard and the new ones coming in, is that there's a lot of miscommunication. And it's sort of static in the middle, where they're saying we want to do our own thing, and don't tell us what we can and can't do. And the older generation is hearing that as like, they don't want to listen to us. They don't want to hear anything we have to say. It's like, well, really what it needs to be is meeting in the middle and saying, hey, so you're doing this. How's that working for you? This is what I do in this situation. And so there needs to be just more of a bridge, more of a communication between that, because there's amazing wisdom, that we've been working on for how many decades now. But the young folks have amazing ideas too. They have, the thing about tradition, right, is that tradition is always being renewed. We can't just say, here it is, let's stick it in a box, put it under a pin, under some glass. It's a living practice. We can't just put it up in a museum. It needs to constantly change and grow for the society. And consider the last 6 months of what's happening on a global scale. You have to be able to go, okay, well, if we're going to have a coven meeting, we're doing it over Zoom, because we can't meet in person. And that requires technology, and that requires being able to think in new ways. So everybody is important at the table. It can't just be, you don't have enough experience or you're too old. It's, how do we work with this together? So collaboration, maybe that's
absolutely. It's a beautiful way of putting it, Laura. Absolutely. And yes, sort of the more I delve into it at the moment, the more I see that those two aspects as well, and this bridge that needs to be built in between, because we all have something to bring to the table, and you never want this to die away at any point in time, because there are frictions within the communities. It is something that we need to continually work on and bring through.
So you've written 2 books as well. The Sigil Witchery, which I'm just going to hold up here, which I'm reading at the moment. It only arrived Friday, so I'm cracking through it. I'm getting through it. And I noticed you mentioned something in there about, I made a note, so bear with me. Appreciating others' works without appropriating it. I thought that was so important. Now, we've been discussing this sort of thing ourselves about using white sage here in Australia, when that's actually not our culture. That's not who we are. Could you maybe explain a little bit more about that to our audience?
So there's quite a few different levels to it, and main thing is when people throw around cultural appropriation, there isn't a lot of deeper understanding or nuance to it. So when you have the context of cultural pollination, if you will,
I like that.
right? That, again, like, especially for the United States, that we're such a melting pot of different things, is that you need to take the time to respect, do the research, to look at the context. If it's a living tradition, then you need to talk to the folks who are actively practicing and doing that. And most importantly, though, I think what it comes down to is considering your own path and what you're doing with that information. So in the terms of appropriation, it's often someone's like, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to swap this image. I'm going to take it out, and then I'm going to like sell this in part of my, 6-week long super new age course that will like for influencers and whatever else the hip words are. It's like, that's not honoring any tradition, like making some sort of messy soup out of it for money, versus going, all right, I've studied this thing. I understand how this smoke cleansing practice is done. Now, if I'm living in Australia, what would be the equivalent of that? What has already been done locally through generations, through time, whatever's developed, and where's the medium? Where's that golden mean in there? So, because again, talking about tradition and it's growing, is that we always have, like, this is how humanity survived, right? Is always taking in new information. But the secret is, do we honor it? Do we appreciate it? Do we respect it? And do we take that time, most importantly, to understand what we're doing and the context?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I want to talk more about this Sigil Witchery and your concepts behind it and how you create your sigils, because it's quite fascinating.
I love the story in here about how you were talking, you were going to a convention and you were going to be teaching the sigils, a new way of doing sigils, not the traditional way, and you were terrified that they might take to you, but in actual fact they embraced you.
Yes, it was sort of a shock to walk into the room 15, 20 minutes early and it's already full. I'm like, am I in the wrong place? Why go out here? Especially for that particular event, I often taught sacred dance and ritual movement. So that's what they knew me for, even though like they saw my art, but they didn't see this context. And so that was really eye-opening. And it was also where they said, you should write a book on this. And my publisher happened to be upstairs. And I was like, so guys.
And actually did you just hear that?
So Sigil Witchery is my second. I've actually written, I think I'm on 7 books at this point.
Wow.
I only found the 2 that were listed there, so you have to tell me all the rest.
So The Witch's Cauldron was the first. Then Sigil Witchery. And then I wrote The Witch's Altar with Jason Mankey, which is part of the same series as The Witch's Cauldron, the Witch's Tool series. And then the Liminal came out 2019, which this is, angles. This is the whole thing that explains modern traditional witchcraft. And that no matter where you are, whatever your background is, building an authentic practice for yourself. This is one of my Sigil Witchery, and these are kind of my babies.
Yeah. I think that's actually a really important book for our modern day witches.
I'm going to pop these up. Absolutely. I'll scroll across shortly.
Because we always get asked, what recommendations would you have to pass on? So all of these wonderful books are certainly things that we shall pass on to people too. I'll have to grab a copy of that too.
So meanwhile, back to the Sigil Witchery.
Yes.
Sorry, squirrel.
This is what witchcraft is. It gives you so many things to look at and to read and to embrace. It's no wonder it is just such a fascinating and exciting place to be at the moment, I think. Yes, so how do you do them? What is the process?
So there are 4 steps, and only 3 of them are necessary, which makes the slackers all very happy. Like, hurry, cut it short. And the first step is common to any magical practice or spellcraft, which is to figure out what is it you want to do, right? What is it that you want to accomplish? What's the problem that you need to solve? And, most often that's something like you need a new job, a new place to live, you're looking for love, right? Those tend to be the big 3. So figure out what you're going to do and why you're doing it, right? We don't just do magic for whatever, right? It should have a reason to give you a focus. Now, most folks just tend to do it right there. Like, need to get a new job. I'll light a green candle. Green is for money or prosperity, whatever. And you'll get a job. But it's not the job you wanted. You're like, I got a job. Thanks, universe. This job sucks. And that's because magic follows the path of least resistance. You need to be specific, but often not too specific, right? There's again, that golden mean. So that brings us to step 2, which is to brainstorm. So if you're looking for a new job, they're like, I want a job in this area. I want to work X amount of hours to make so much money. I'm looking for respect because I didn't have that in my former job. I'm looking for something that will pay for education. Like, whatever it is you're looking for, put that down. If it's a place to live, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, in this area, in this price range, in this time frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
Specific. Love. What you're looking for, love, right? Someone who likes cats. is respectful, is sweet, likes the same movies, lives in the same time zone, whatever that is. Boom. So that gives you brainstorming, right? To sit there and to really start to visualize what it is. And then step 3 is design. And design is to take those keywords that you've made in your brainstorm list and connect those to images, shapes, marks, symbols. So, for amount of money, you're like, okay, it needs to be $50,000, and you've got like 50K right there. Boom. If you want upward mobility in your job, you might choose an arrow pointing upward. If you're looking for communications, like it might be little talkie signs, X marks the spot, whatever it is. And so you assign symbols to those words and then put them together. You kind of craft them into that. And as you're doing this, you're kind of checking into the shape of the universe, if you will. You think about what is this image that I'm putting together? And at the end of that design process, where you do some problem solving, kind of figure this out, how it's supposed to look, you will hit a point where your brain goes, that's it. That's the symbol. That's the sigil. And you don't have to do a damn thing past that. You can like close your little grimoire or your Post-it note or whatever you're drawing on, and that's it. Because the charging process, right, was the whole thing that you just went through. The focusing on the concept, seeing all the elements of it, putting that pen to the paper with your mind focused on it, and it is like it has begun. You just wrote a computer program and pressed enter. So you can stop there. But because we are humans and we love stuff, I like to point to all the stuff in the background, right? We love candles, we love oils, we love stones and crystals, all that kind of stuff. And there is step 4, which is to apply and or acknowledge your sigil. So if you're doing, let's say, a cleansing sigil, right, or one of protection, maybe that's something that you carve into a bar of soap and you wash with it. It might be something that, for that good job that you put that on a candle and you burn that for the certain amount while you're working on your resume, right? It might be something that you bake into cookies, like whatever it is, physical.
One we made earlier.
Oh,
Not much of it left, and it's working really quite well.
So whatever it is that helps you just further do that visualization, that getting in touch with sympathetic magic, right? Those little final things that fascinate your right brain. And you can do that as often as you need, as long as you don't fixate on it. But usually it's just that beginning process. It becomes part of your practice and your path without being like really heavy-handed with it.
I know. I love that you have created these beautiful images of the sigils that you have, which really...
I don't want to lose my page.
Yeah, they speak to my brain. They speak to the way I see these things, and you've put them on clothing as well, which are just beautiful. So congratulations. Yes, amazing work. Love it.
And for those people listening, because in Australia we don't have a great deal of teachers, could you explain to them the traditional way of doing the sigils? Because that's how we did ours, that's the traditional way, which I'm going to upgrade now. I've got my next candle ready to go for the upgrade.
So there's a few different traditional ways. With like, say, the ceremonial magic tends to be what I call like the little Punnett square, which is where you have letters or numbers and you connect and make a little combination. But the one that most people are familiar with comes from Austin Osman Spar, which is the
Chaos
magic,
Yep.
which is to take a statement, to cut out the vowels and the duplicate consonants, and to kind of jumble them up into something. And then from there, the advice might be to set it on fire or to masturbate to it or whatever they like to do. But that's just one of many methods that Sarah himself used. It's nice, but it's also it's kind of it's one that he sort of created more for the non-artistic folks in his circle, I guess. And that he's like, here's a sort of left brain thing. You want a method? Here you go. Take, because he was a bit of I don't know, can I curse?
Oh, yes, please.
He's a bit of a smart ass, about some things. He definitely had a sense of humor about it. And so, that approach, it can work if you're not very artistically minded. But for those who are already familiar with sympathetic magic, if you're a visual artist, if you're used to using the picture of the mind, right, then coming into that method, it feels always a little weird, right? Because what you're doing is deconstructing that image. You're taking it apart instead of doing it sort of like, it's like creating this beautiful candle and then running it over with your car instead of setting it on fire. It's totally effective, but if that's, our brains, I think the most important thing to understand is that all methods work. It's just a matter of how does your particular brain work? How do you process things? Because we're all a little bit different. And it's crucial to find a method that works for you. And I find that most folks who are visual artists, most folks who are creative people, tend to find the more that they get used to the Sigil Witchery method, they're like, it's faster. Christopher Hughes, absolutely love him. He came over to PaganaCon last year, and he's like, I drew a sigil and I got upgraded to first class. This shit works.
Well, no, we won't be traveling for years. We need to do it now.
We were meant to be over in Boston and Salem in June this year, so we were all a little bit sad. Oh no, poor babies.
Just up away. Yeah. So I think that was the little tagline I should put onto everything. Christopher Hughes says this shit works.
Hashtag.
I used that last week when I was doing a class, and you always put in a little thing before you do your live just to explain what it is, and that's what I actually put. This shit works. So, yeah. She's a sister.
Yeah. Tell us about your new Oracle deck. Oh, hang on. She's got a picture she wants to share.
I want to show people. Where is it? Look at this.
Oh, the sigil satchels.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, I was eyeing them off. A lot of them are sold out. And I'm going,
I do have I have a stack over here that I need to finish up. It's just been going from one thing to the other. Well, now that I'm home, I've got all this time. Except for I just finished writing a book.
Yeah. It's like we were saying we're home a lot more, but we seem to be busier than ever. Mm-hmm. Which is good. It means we're adapting. I don't want to adapt too much to this, though.
Yes.
So anyway, the Liminal Spirits Oracle card.
Oh, yes. They looked beautiful.
It just came out in June. I think that was the official. And so this is my first official Oracle deck. Mm-hmm. And because everyone, as an artist, I wish if I had $1 for every time someone said, "Have you ever thought about doing a tarot or oracle deck?" I pay a month of mortgage right there. Maybe several. It's yes, but there are systems, and you need to take the time to really develop it. To me, that's the most important. It's easy to make a deck of pretty art. It is more challenging to make something that people are really going to connect with and use. And that's a crucial thing for me. If I'm going to put the effort into it, I want people to be able to use it, to connect with it. And so this deck is about connecting with the spirits that are around us. It's very of an animistic approach to things. So it includes places, the spirits of place, of trees, of herbs, of different kinds of animals, as well as the artifacts, which is the raw materials that we make things out of, such as clay and bone and metal, because when we work with those, it's not only the essence of those spirits, but it's what happens in the creation process. And then what happens as those tools are used, they also take on another spirit to themselves. And so it's an aid for folks to be able to connect with those and use them as a guide for everything else that's not included in the deck, because there's only 42 cards. If I did everything that I wanted, we'd be shuffling a deck this big.
I don't think people realize how long it takes to actually create 42 cards anyway. So yes. How long did it take you to create all of the artwork and put all of this together? Because it's not a process of a few weeks. It takes months and months and months.
So this deck started as an idea of 6 little paintings that I did for connecting with spirits. And I was like, these were so much fun. I should do a whole deck of these, and I sent it over to Luella and they're like, that's great. You should do them. Like, this is going to be wonderful. It'll be great. And I knew I was going to be moving from Seattle to New England. So I'm like, okay, it's got to be done by March, April, whatever. Get the art done by then. And I thought, I'll sit down and I'll do 3, 4, 5 a week. Be wonderful, just a little bit at a time. Well, I don't work that way.
That sounded like a plan.
So I made at least 9 medium to large paintings that had nothing to do with the Oracle deck from the time I signed the contract up until when I finally sat down to do the deck. Because I procrastinate by making more.
Yes. I know that well.
Yeah, because I guess those little 6 paintings, those were for fun. I didn't have any big plans. And as soon as you're like, oh, it's going to be a deck. Mm-hmm. Oh, people are going to use this. Mm-hmm. So I prepped like 50 tiles of birch wood to work on this. And I start working on the first one. And I was like, oh gosh, and then put it aside and then painted everything else. So when it finally got time, I think it was like around February or March, I'm like, I gotta do this. This is what I did for 2 weeks straight. This is all I did was paint and connect with the spirits. So doing anywhere from 3 to 7 paintings a day, depending on the state. And this is like get up, walk across the hall to my studio, and just do it all day. And my husband would come in with like, here's some tea, honey.
And back out slowly.
Here's the food. Yeah. And after I finished them all, it was like I was nonverbal. I was like, I did that.
But you did it.
That's amazing. That's literally like channeling through the information, really.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it really is the best approach when working with spirits. Like, you just can't I'll just saunter in and work with the spirit today, and then we'll saunter back out. It's like you really do need to, at least for me, to be fully committed, because then I can't get other things done. It's like once you've turned on that part of the brain, it's very hard to shift gears and be like, oh, go write a blog post now, or now I'm going to go give a lecture. It's like the brain doesn't really work that way. So it was better to just sequester the spirits. Sequestered with the spirits. There's my biography for whoever wants to write it in 4 decades.
Write that down, Anne.
Yeah. We're still going to be alive then?
Oh, shut up.
Oh, come on.
We for a change. Now, we've got the lovely Lady Tamara here saying, ask her to do a card for the show. You read my mind. I was actually going to ask as well. Maybe pull a guidance card for
the world.
The world. Just a little one, if you don't mind.
I'm shuffling. And here's the back. Oops.
Oh, look at that. Beautiful.
I love the colours.
Yeah.
So, the whole process takes months, but the nitty-gritty of the art.
No, that was an amazing process. Absolutely. It would frighten the hell out of me.
You'd have an anxiety attack over that one.
I would find so many things not to do, and so I didn't have to do it.
All right.
So,
okay.
I have pulled Monk's Hood or Aconite. There we go.
Oh, beautiful. Look at that.
So this is from our herb family, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that aconite or monk's hood is one of the most deadly of the herbs, right? You can't really touch it. You really, not even just working with the leaves or the flowers, you really have to be gloved. I'm gonna pull the book. So it's a wonderful full color book. that comes with it.
Yes, yes. We
So,
need that to be able to work out what's happening.
So this is like the death card in the tarot deck.
It's a pretty serious, heavy duty one. So for the book, I give you a little description of what that particular spirit is, and then there's at least 3 messages. And my hope is that once you work with the deck more, you will be inspired, just like with the tarot, to come up with more messages to connect with those spirits. Right. So it does have, of course, since it's highly poisonous, is a lot of underworld associations. Right. So some folks will say it's sacred to Hecate or other deities of the underworld. And then, of course, you have the hooded figure, right? You know, we have the monk wearing its hood, but also the sort of mysterious figure, which kind of gives it, it's also a very tall plant. So it has a sort of guardian, you know, it's almost like its own stang, right, coming up out of the earth. And so it gives you the sense that it warns people when danger is near, even though it could be the danger itself.
I'm resonating with this so far. Wear a mask, in other words. Yes.
So let's go for the first message here. Is the phrase cloak and dagger conjures up ideas of intrigue, secrecy, and mystery. And now is a time to give a little more thought to the reality of a potentially dangerous situation. It's time to draw your cloak close to your body. Avoid being noticed and be ready to defend yourself just in case.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I could just see the whole, like, the cloak thing is literally, oh, sorry, as I just dropped stuff all over the floor, is bringing this across your face. Yes.
There's the second message. I think all 3 of these are a bit of a whammy. We have a tendency to view guardian spirits as friendly and welcoming in nature, but that's not true of all who may seek to aid us. Though some may be distant or cold, they are still up to the task regardless of our preconceptions about them.
COVID.
And also the people who are trying to lead us to help us. We just won't go there because that's another whole show.
Yeah. And then this pretty much sums it up. Monkshood embodies the saying, the witch who cannot hex cannot heal. Magic is neither black or white, good nor bad. It's how we apply it and take responsibility for our actions that matters most. One person's poison may be another person's miracle cure, all from the same source.
Wow.
I
love that.
That's profound. I've actually got goosebumps all over me. Wow.
That was a great card pull. Absolutely fabulous and so timely for right now.
Yeah.
For people to understand. Wow. Now, before anything else, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very hot over there, aren't you?
It is. We are in the middle of summer over here, so we just had Lunasa.
We're freezing, except for this one who's having a hot flush.
Sorry. Oh, thank you.
I do have a question here. So it came up earlier, but I'll just pop up back there. Is there a limit on how many are in a coven, and how close do you have to be to the coven?
I guess it depends on the coven.
Yeah.
So there's obviously the traditional idea that came from various witch lore, right? Fake lore and witch lore, right? That 13 is the perfect number for a coven, which does fit a 9-foot circle, which was 3 meters.
Ah, yes, good.
But mathing well does fit very nice. But it depends on your space, and it also depends on what is it you want to do and what the tradition is. So that's more important than, of course, if somebody's watched The Craft too many times, they're like, we need a 4th, right? Like that's covens are not necessarily the most natural state of witches, I'd like to say. I find that witches tend to be more individualistic. I think of Baba Yaga out in the woods, right? Like, I'm doing my own thing. If I need to go get some aconite, I'll come visit the next witch in the next woods over. We'll convene, we'll share some tips, and then we'll go our separate ways because we each want to do our own thing. Yeah. And I think Terry Pratchett kind of nailed that. If you want to get to your witch facts from fiction, go Terry Pratchett. It's going to work out much better for you than most Hollywood stuff. So you don't need to have a certain amount of number. It's just a matter if you want to work with people. If you're going to work magic together, you need to have a good relationship with those folks. You need to be able to trust them, to be comfortable with them, and know that you're all on the same page. If you have totally different beliefs about working with deities or how you work magic or where you want to talk about the elements from, then it's not going to work as well. And online things, there's a bit of distance there, but again, it's a matter of, do you have a common goal together, or is there something that pulls you all together?
And just explain to people about different traditions, because some people might not understand, like that different covens follow a different tradition.
So there's a lot of different traditions.
That's why I thought I'd throw that to you. How long we got?
Well, I think most people have a good concept of Christianity, right? So that you can have Catholicism and Presbyterians and Methodists and Lutherans and then you have Jehovah's Witnesses and all these sort of things that are sort of under a giant Christian umbrella, right? But there's some basic things, but how they believe, how they approach things is different. And the same is true for witchcraft. It can be very heavily influenced by regional beliefs, whether it's coming from a Celtic or an Irish background or Italian or Slavic, whatever it is, fill in the blank. Or you have your more formal organized systems such as Gardnerian and Alexandrian and other temples and churches of witchcraft as well. So you have a wealth of diversity.
And then there are all the eclectic witches as well that pick what suits them and do it their own way, as you said. And that's why so many tend to be just solitaries now and do their own thing and not be condemned for whatever they're doing or not doing in whatever way they are or are not. So, yeah. As long as it keeps going, I think, and we keep creating this beautiful way of being, I think that's the most important thing. Yeah. You dance. And can you tell us just a little bit about that while we bring up some questions? If anyone has any questions for Laura while we still have her, please pop them in the feed now, in the comments. Can you tell us a little bit about your dancing career?
So I got into dance actually after I got into witchcraft. I had a friend who I went to college with who had moved back to the Bay Area, and she was at a street fair and she's like, oh my God, you have to check out this dance troupe. They were doing these amazing things. There's powerful women with swords and these colors and tassels and such. And it was the early days of the internet. So I looked it up and like, woo, this is a thing. This is sort of like the embodiment of at that point, female power, which was very important coming out of a Catholic background where all you had was Mary, which Mary's great, but not exactly.
And the other one we won't talk about.
Yes.
The other Mary.
Oh.
Shh, we won't talk about her.
There isn't much. You don't have any good examples of like a whole woman, essentially. Yeah. So at that point, in my late teens, early 20s, it was like, oh, I want to find out what this is more about. And so I found belly dancing. And through that, I found all the folkloric dances. I studied North African and different Mediterranean dances, Italian trance dances as well, and continuously interpreting them from a mythic sort of view. I'm not very choreography minded. I like to do improvisation, to hear the music and tell the story and allow the story to change and grow with every experience and every performance.
We are still here. We've just lost our picture. I don't know why.
I touched something.
Yeah, it's bloody Renata. Sorry to interrupt you there.
And so it seemed a very natural thing to take dance and to bring it into a ritual setting. And continue to explore those things. So for a while, as a professional dancer, I was a bit like, and I'm also a witch, because I kind of felt like, in some ways, that should be kept separate. At this point, though, my major joy is teaching ritual movement to witches and other magical practitioners, because the body is your primary tool. So to see people embrace their bodies and the potential of their own power is very exciting. It's wonderful, and it's
Yeah, I'm not so good at anything to do with choreography. I have such a shocking memory, and improv would be the best way to go. But it would be quite interesting watching me even do that. You used to actually be part of a dance troupe, didn't you, Renata?
I did, just for a very short period of time when I didn't have a muffin top.
Embrace every inch of your body, Renata. That's all I can
No,
say.
well, the inches are getting more and more. Thank you. I'm done with embracing.
Now this book here, Weave the Liminal. So what is that one about?
So Weave the Liminal is the book that I wish I had when I first started out. Yeah, so more than 2 decades.
Shh, don't tell people.
She did start when she was 2.
I told you.
It just flies by. I'm like, what? This is all witchcraft. And so, trying to find that book, like the closest I found to something that really connected to me was Doreen Valiente's Witchcraft for Tomorrow, which was written in 1978 or 79. And, so already in the mid 90s, it was starting to be dated. And now to kind of recommend that book even now, it's like, it's not fully in touch with what we know today about magic and witchcraft, and especially some of the language. As much as I love Doreen, right? It can't grow because we no longer have Doreen with us. And so being able to help folks craft an authentic practice for themselves using the system that I developed to figure it out myself of, what are my roots and what is inspiring me? What does my practice look like? What is the environment? How's that influenced my practice? What are my morals and my ethics, right? To put that all into a system that works, right? And it can be fluid and change from person to person because you can design it to work with you as you journey your path.
Now we have Patricia, who has said, wonderful Laura, I was lucky enough to dance with Bangara Dance Theatre here in Oz. So you do a lot of work with the Indigenous peoples and work with their their spiritual practices as well to get a real handle on their own. I guess it comes back to the Sigil Witchery. And looking at all of the different symbols that are used worldwide. And we have found when we have been doing a little bit of research that there are many symbols that seem to be everywhere. They're very, it's not a localized thing, even though you may have the Aboriginals here and you have cultures in Scotland or Ireland or wherever it might be. The same symbology tends to kind of be everywhere. Have you found that as well?
Yes. So in Sigil Witchery, I bring up the research of Genevieve von Petzinger, who wrote a book called The First Signs, and she has a TED Talk called 32 Signs. And in her research of looking at cave paintings, something like 176 sites across throughout Europe and Africa and Indonesia, etc., that there were these 32 symbols that repeated in all of these locations spanning at least 10,000 years, which suggests that we started in a common source, likely Africa, and then went around the world, right? We took these symbols with us, and their meanings and how they were used, of course, would grow and change, just like as we know with culture. So, there is definitely that commonality there. And there's also the thing about like the patterns in our brains and the patterns in nature, the things that we see again and again, like spirals and cross hatches, circles and triangles, etc. Like they're part of what we see in nature. It's part of the entopic symbols in our brains. And so it's amazing to see that we do have this connection. Like no matter what language you speak or how we look, there is a baseline of mark making that is found all over the globe. And there's a commonality to it.
Absolutely fascinating.
I wish you could see our faces here because we are just like drooling with the information coming forward.
Could you please just show everyone once again your book and the oracle cards, because people are still asking for it.
So this one. Boop.
Yes, Weave Liminal. That is the newest one.
Yes.
So that is available, I guess, from all good bookstores and also online and from your website as well.
I actually got the Sigil Witchery book only in a couple of days from a place in Australia, so you can get them.
Yeah, they're
And
it's Llewellyn, so
Liminals.
it's everywhere.
Oh, Llewellyn?
Yep. And yes, they are on your webpage, so anyone going to Laura's webpage will find those showing there. And yes, you will be able to purchase them, and highly recommended. And if you are artistic or want to sort of get into that side of your brain and create, doing sigils is something that is so deeply meditational and really awakens that side of connectedness to your spirituality. I think it's really worth spending time to create those images. And the thing is that, yeah, even though the images that you have, Laura, are really intricate and beautiful, if you take them apart symbol by symbol, they're very easy and simple. It's just the, yeah.
You just,
it's the
you don't
connectedness
need to
that
be
you
able to
create.
draw. You don't have to be an artist. If you can sign your name, or you can scribble your name, if you can do a little X on a tablet, you can do this. It just takes a little bit of practice. But it's like we all were born being able to draw and paint. It's just as we go through a school system that, you know, people tell you that the arts aren't important and you should stop drawing, or that your drawing of that bunny that was dumb and so you stop drawing from there. It's like we all have that capability. It's just a matter of recapturing that, which is true with magically seeing the world too, right? That we are told, you know, as we're getting older, that no, you don't see invisible people. That you're not, you know, you don't know about these other things that you're talking about. That's just all silly fantasy stuff. And then you get into witchcraft, and you're like, oh wait. So I was talking to my deceased great-great-grandmother in the closet. That's who that was. When you know, like these things that, you know, our brains shut down because society tells us we're not supposed to do them. But yet we do have that capability. It's just a matter of reconnecting to it.
Absolutely. And it makes the world so endlessly fascinating too. It's really sad for me for people who don't even attempt to look beyond, because they're missing such a huge amount of what this world has to offer. So,
And the other world.
and the other world, and all the other worlds that are there, up and down and in between.
Going deep now,
Yeah,
Renata.
I know. I think it's time to stop. Laura, it's been an absolute delight to have you here with us this morning and your evening. We could go on forever, especially talking about art. I could probably talk to you for hours, but I won't. So all we can do is absolutely thank you from the bottom of our hearts for spending our morning with us and showing us your work. I know that there are a lot of people online right now who are already jumping online and going, I need to buy that freaking stuff because it's awesome.
They are all on there saying, I don't know which one to buy first.
Buy them all. That's what I recommend. Just buy them all.
And also, don't forget, Laura's got a blog,
Yes.
which you can find on Pathos there. I've got the link up. And if you want to know more about her dancing, there's the Darkly Dramatic, and then her sigils.
Oh, yes, they are amazing.
And he's the artwork. I'm getting there. So I've got everything. And this is, you find everything there. Just
Yes.
head to that one
Yes.
and find all your links.
Yes.
You'll
So
get
you're
there.
going to have heaps and heaps of weird Australians following you from today on.
Like us.
Just
Aw.
accept them with arms open. We're all
I
weird
will.
down here. We are from the land of Oz. Just remember that.
And we've got Mary from Ireland that's on watching as
Oh,
well.
hi, Mary.
So you've got a worldwide audience there. So yeah, thank you so much for speaking with us this morning, evening.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope that once this all clears up, I get to get over there. And I hope that if you come up to Salem, Massachusetts, we can meet up, because it's not very far.
We will.
We will.
We will be there.
We will. Absolutely. can count on that.
All right. Well, thank you to Lady Tamara for
Connecting us, yes.
and putting all of this idea together. And we'll say goodbye to our audience now. Laurie, just hang there. Don't forget, everyone in our audience, that we will be doing a live cross from Q Station Manly. If you head over to the Quarantine Station Ghost Tours page, we will be doing a live investigation there. And you can follow us along, and it should be quite a bit of fun.
Yeah, it will be.
All right. So
thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you.
And remember, our next guest is Morgana, coming all the way from the Netherlands, and she will be on next week, and we're scared. We're scared.
Why are we scared? I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.